All right, this is my story part 2. Okay, so wow, telling your story early is hard when it's not a conversation because you're not getting that feedback. Am I boring you? Is this too much? Is it not enough? There's nothing really jogging my memory from the outside. So anyway, it's a little challenging. Um, so this college I went to was what it was, and it was good and bad. They did have Christian love for the most part, it seems like, especially compared to my family. But then this um, doctrinal gaslighting was detrimental. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, during this time of, and here's the thing: is I was going to that community college at the same time a little bit, so I didn't get to. Most people were working, so I'm not. What? Okay, so yeah, so one of my friends there got to work in the horse barn, so she was really ensconced in the life there. I had to keep driving to Salem to go to the community college, and then driving home to work in my dad's shop. Um, yeah. So anyway, it was what it was. I was doing a lot of stuff. I also was going up to the Portland Saturday market to sell for my dad. Even though he didn't pay me that much, he only paid me $40 a day plus $10 lunch. And since um, I bought a $3 lunch, the lentils and rice people, I got to save that bit of money too. So anyway, it's just an example of another example of what it was like growing up. I don't know. This whole thing was one of my dad's friends who paid his daughters really well when they sold down there, like at least $100 a day. He would be asking me, "Oh, so does your dad pay you pretty well?" And I didn't want to tell on my dad, so I just kind of smiled and nodded. I didn't want to say he pays me this much, or it just hurts. It hurts when you see what people assume is going on and how it's different from what you're experiencing. And just to know, oh, this non-Christian guy, this Jewish guy actually, pays his daughters really well, and he's nice to them and encourages them to go up here and sell for him. And my dad just sort of uses me. And that's sort of what it always felt like, even though just because when we were younger, he would say, "Oh, when you get to the older and you can drive, you'll have to go up there and sell for me, and you'll get this much money." As a it's hard to explain my dad in a kind of a mocking slave driver sort of way. And if you know what Trump is like, that's my dad's very much like that. His sense of humor. I actually like Trump. He's so not offensive to me because my dad is like that, but times something plus a lot of insecurity. So it's like the only way to get any affection or interaction with my dad is just to kind of engage with him in that way, you're using me, making fun of me sort of way. So I guess I'll laugh along with you. I don't know. It's hard to explain because I felt like, wow, my brother's not going to do this. I think he said, "No way am I doing that." But I felt like, well, I'm going to do it because he kind of wants us to. I later linked that back to well, A, not having any other opportunities, but B, I always saw the hurt child in my dad. So, wanting to save him, wanting to be the good person. I guess to just have a relationship with him would be the main thing. Always on his terms. So anyway, so I was doing a lot at the same time. And I guess this is also the time because, this was when I started going up to the Saturday market, and that was almost every single weekend. Yeah, most Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah. So I wasn't able to go to church with these people either, except occasionally. Um, anyway, that was also the time that this younger boy, I was like, 18. When I first went up to the Saturday market, I was 17, but my birthday's in October. So basically 18 and 19. I'm trying to think here. No, actually 19 and 20 going up there. Uh, okay, sorry if this is really boring. I guess it was like started a year before I started going to this college that this a teenager, he was 14 when I was 17. So um, oh, he lied. He said he was 14. He was 13. So he's 4 years younger than me. Okay. Anyway, this kid whose parents went up there, or his dad went up there, he just was really friendly. He was a booth sitter and just kind of a social, quirky kid. And he liked hanging out with me, and we'd play cribbage because I bought a cribbage board from the people across from me. Um, we just had a lot of fun, and I think he had a crush on me, but his like attention was just so validating, like just to have a friend, someone like you when you didn't go to school and you didn't really have friends, and you, yeah. Anyway, it meant a lot to me. Hopefully, it didn't break his heart or anything. Anyway, that was a funny thing. So I had these different worlds going on at the same time. There's the Bible school worlds, Portland Saturday Market world, the Shemeketa Community College world, and the working at home world. Um, so I actually was lucky to get out of the house when I did, because I, learned later and saw at the time also, but it was, my family was sort of falling apart during that time. So yeah, this all sort of happened close to the same time. Yeah, so I think when I was 18 was when the internet became a thing, and we got the internet, and my dad just started going on. He likes to socialize, and he's very gregarious in his way. He started going on French, I don't know what they were called, but they were French wet chat rooms. It's just, somewhat harmless, but he just kept making friends with these young women on there. And one in particular just was spending so many hours a day talking to her. And she was like 26. I don't know how old he was at this time. Um, so that became an issue between my parents. Like, why are you spending hours a day talking to this 26-year-old woman from um, Reunion Island off the coast of Madagascar? And eventually he went to visit her. She lived with her parents, so it wasn't like they were going all the way or anything like that, but it was definitely he was in love with her sort of thing, which he didn't really admit to us. It was just a weird thing, have your dad go off, and I think that was like for 3 weeks. It was at least 3 weeks or a month. Yeah, I was glad not to be in that house. So that caused a big rift between my parents. But my dad just gassed up my mom, like, no, we're just friends. What's the big deal? Blah, blah. Just argue. Argument. It has to be right. Won't apologize. Just like what he'd always been doing. Their whole relationship, everything I'd seen was like that. I'm guessing from a child he was like this. So yeah, that must have just happened, yeah, around that time. And then at some point, my parents kind of separated for a while. My mom and younger sister went to live with those good old homeschool friends. So lucky my sister, she got to like be in their family a little bit more. I always wanted to be part of their family. Like, it was just a much better family. And lucky them. My twin brother, he's at home, very depressed. He kind of had dyslexia, so just wasn't he had some learning disabilities there. Yeah, So like, I mean, he's a smart guy, but wasn't, and he has terrible handwriting, so just not a whole lot of self-esteem. He was working in my dad's shop. They became a little bit better, had a, I don't know, friends, I don't know if that's the word, but just started to have a little bit better relationship. He started calling him dad, because like when we were quite young, I stopped calling my dad dad because he didn't, well, okay, there's various reasons. So I think this was, I time things. This was when we were in our old house, so that means I was under 5.5 years old. My dad would always be nice and gregarious to the neighbor kids, and they'd call him Jim, and he was nice and fun with them. He'd always be teasing them, talking to them, like they could act out, they could scream and like beg and like pull on his arm and do these things that we didn't do. We weren't comfortable. We didn't have that kind of relationship with him. He would definitely punish us if we ever did any of those things. Whine, complain, beg, pull on his arm, touch him, anything. So, to stand there like a observer of your dad being very fatherly to the neighbors, that's hard as a kid. So it wasn't even like it was a vindictive thing. I mean, I don't remember. That was a long time ago. I think when I've thought about it in the past, I haven't thought about this recently. I think it was twofold. It was like, well, if we call him Jim, maybe he'll start acting like Jim to us, not like dad. And then the other part of me was like, he doesn't deserve to be called dad. He doesn't act like our dad. So it was twofold. So at that point, I started calling him Jim. And of course, my brother copied me, and my sister, 5 years young, almost 5 years younger, grew up calling him Jim and never knew why, So anyway, at that time, my brother actually started calling him dad, which is weird. Like, and it took me a few years. I decided to start calling him dad. Somewhat. It still feels a little weird. Well, okay, maybe not. It's still, but anyway, I just felt bad for my brother because he's there without really much social network. I don't think he had really any, and just working in the shop, and then my mom and sister were away. Anyway, it's depressing. So when I would go back to work multiple times per week, I would feel the tension to some extent, obviously, but I was happy to be in a different place. So yeah, one memory that really stands out from this period was the one time I like kind of confronted my dad. And it was, he was going through a theatrical lecture thing. Yeah, so anyway, piecing pictures, that's when you put the like puzzles, the inlaid together, and it's really fun. I mean, I love artsy things. I always had wanted to do that. So anyway, it was a job I didn't mind being paid by the piece, not by the hour, and it taking me a long time. I was being paid by the piece. That was a good point. So there's like no reason to lecture me on my speed, right? And my dad's very quick with his hands and things. Like, he can do things really fast, and like I just can't. Besides the fact that to me it's fun to arrange the colors. Like, that's like my absolute favorite thing in life. So I didn't mind spending time with that, even though. Anyway, so I couldn't do it in the industrial way. Anyway, even if I tried, which I didn't really. Anyway, but so he took the opportunity to give me the lecture of like, you're too slow, even though I was being paid by the piece, and that didn't matter. And it just, at that, because I'd been away, free from him. Anyway, at that point, it just was so obvious that it was ridiculous and unfair. So I actually just laughed at him. I just remember laughing. Literally, this is too funny. And that was the only time I've seen a demon manifest in him. And it was like just his face, like the eyes kind of blobbed out like this. That's all I remember, was that the eyes came out. And I was like, wow, that was a demon. And I didn't like the laughter. So anyway, that kind of stunned him, and he stopped lecturing me, at least that day. So anyway, that was probably the first time I really started thinking of it as a demon. But like at this point in my life, I understand the demonic way better. So I use that word a lot more now. Okay, so back at the school, the things that the things that I don't know, the scenario I'm remembering is the head of the school, or the not the founder, but the person who ran it, or at least the person who ran the camps. Maybe that's more what he was. The thing that he would like to gaslight people with was, gosh, it's kind of hard to remember. I mean, I just remember him saying, "Oh, we're seated in the heavenlies with Christ," and he would just say it in a slow way, like we're seated in the heavenlies with Christ. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, is that just a sentence that you say sometimes? Like, what does that mean? Like, I felt like there's obviously a spiritual reality there. There's something behind it. But he would, that's not a good scenario, example, but yeah, I just remember him saying it like that, like, well, we're seated in the heavenlies with Christ. Like, okay, and that means what? Like, he never expound on it. Okay, but now I remember the main thing he would love to say is, when we were dead in our trespasses and sins, Christ made us alive. What can a dead person do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They can stink. And this was also like something he would teach at the camps all the time. It just seems like it was always like coming up like every day. And his camp name was Buzzard, so he emphasized the whole dead thing metaphor that he loved so much. So if you're not familiar with this is just it's part of the Calvinistic view of sovereignty of God, meaning that he's a deterministic God. Like, he chooses some people to be saved, chooses some to be damned for eternity in hell. Not that we have free will or that he gives us choice. So yeah, that was, I've never believed that. I've always disagreed, and that was like so shoved down our throats. Like, how many times was I given that? What can a dead person do? Nothing. Stink. It's like, that example's not even used in the Bible. Like, Jesus doesn't use that example. So, like, do you have anything more? Like, can you explain? That was always kind of his only thing to stand on, and it was like, end of story. Anyway, I just always felt that wasn't true. I felt that wasn't true, and so with that guy, I just felt a little, no, not a little, a big check in my spirit. Like, okay, there's something off about him. Even though, like, he was actually very nice in general, thought to be nice, not necessarily. It's not like he was mean to me, but like, a lot of people actually looked up to him as their surrogate dad. He would like hug people and stuff, but he always seemed a little standoffish with me because I challenged him on that a little bit. Anyway, yeah, and I don't want to give names, or not trying to run this school through the dirt or anything. So yeah, another thing that happened there, without giving names or anything, I guess if you know, you know. The guy who did found it, who was like in his 80s, there was a woman who started coming the second year. I kind of forgot about this, and she was fresh out of Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. So kind of she kind of an unstable person. I didn't know her that well. She was old to us, like close to 40 probably, overweight, kind of needy, that sort of person. But I became friends with her. I don't remember if she lasted that whole year. Kind of think not, because I don't remember. But anyway, we kind of felt like we didn't exactly know how to help her. Yeah, I think she did leave early because of this thing that happened, which was every day, we had a break and we'd go and get some tea or coffee. I always had tea in this, and that's all we had. The cafeteria area. So she was there alone with this founder guy, and like she was also challenging things and bringing things up. Probably the things I was, yeah, because I do think we did talk about the things. Um, anyway, she said that this guy kind of poked her in the stomach, like as a you, and touched her, and it wasn't like a pushing her. I don't know. Maybe she did say it was pushing, but just you don't touch someone. You don't. It's kind of pointing, poking. Anyway, just a bit weird. But then nobody believed her. She told us all. I don't remember if at the same time or what. I believed her, but like not even my classmates believed her, and none of us know what to do about it. And it really bothered her, probably because she had just come out of this cult. She didn't want to really be part of another one. Yeah, so I think that's why she left earlier. So anyway, that was like another thing I stuck in my memory. Okay, so I was also remembering at home, like I was. Oh, that was the other thing. Okay, I was artistic, and one of my outlets was drawing. I don't think I'm that talented, so I wasn't like doing cool sketches and stuff. But like I would draw cats and flowers, and I wanted to learn how to do it better, with shading and like actual sketching, and I wanted to do houses and people's faces. So I kind of always wanted art classes growing up, but there wasn't really anything like that. I don't think my parents looked very hard. I also knew I wanted to write, but that, again, like I don't think there really was anything defined. But if there was, like there wasn't anything in the community, but like a really good parent maybe could have found someone who would mentor me in these ways. I don't know. But since I didn't get to do the things I wanted to, it was always kind of frustrated. I mean, to say kind of frustrated is an understatement. I was frustrated, and drawing, yeah, like at least I could draw what I drew, and I always felt connected to God when I did, and it was nice. But you needed time and peace, and I do wish I could have had instruction. Maybe I could have gotten better. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, by the time I was 11, and my dad was having us work in the shop more, and he would come in and say, "Oh, this needs to be done," and we'd have to do it immediately. So I just remember I had to settle down. Yeah, not 11, more like 14, because it was, yeah, my second cat. I was like, I haven't drawn Sparrow yet. Like I was finally settling down to like draw her, because I hadn't drawn my new cat. I always loved cats. Oh, I told you about my first cat. First cat, Whiskers, did everything with me. Anyway, I just sat down to draw her and was in the mental frame of mind, and my dad came in and had me drop what I was doing and work, and it was like the straw that broke the camel's back, because I think maybe I asked, can I do it after this? He was like, no. For whatever reason, I'd already been frustrated with that, and that was a thing for me. Like I think I said, okay, then I'm probably not gonna draw again. It's not like I cursed myself or completely stopped drawing, but I think that was the last attempt as someone living in that house. At least last big attempt. So it was just like a heartbreaking moment more than anything else. Yeah. So, but more than the drawing, I wanted to write, like from maybe since the time I started like learning how to write as a 4 or 5 year old. I wanted to write books. Probably before that, because I love picture books. What kid doesn't? It's sort of like our world. But I really wanted to write, and I did write some little books. Like I made some little books with tape and stuff. But Right. And then I became obsessed with the idea of keeping a journal. And I don't know where all this perfectionism entered me. Like maybe children are born this way. I mean, I seem to have been born a perfectionist. But so by the time I got my first journal, so I think I was 7 when I got my first journal, and I just went down, set out to write January 1st. I didn't really have anything to write. Like, I'm sure I wrote hello, Allie. Blah, blah. I don't know. I did not have to look back at that journal. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I was not in touch with my inner world. And even if I did get something on the page that day, like I wanted to do it every day. And the fact that I could not do it every day just killed me. Like I was under so much shame just for that for years. And then when I was 9, I got a different journal. And that was nothing compared to like as a teenager, as a 11, as I got more serious about it. And then at some point I started actually journaling somewhat. I actually have quite a few journals that are mostly full, but for the longest time I just felt bad that I couldn't do it every day. But so yeah, anyway, I have all those journals, something I have not got myself to read through again. Um, I don't know why I'm resisting it. I think I will sense all this sadness. I mean, I think that's what I'll sense. I don't think I ever wrote about the sadness. I think I just wrote about what I did. And when I was happy, I would write too much detail about like trivial things. I wasn't writing my feelings. I wasn't writing my thoughts. I didn't know how to tap into those things. But I felt that I was a writer and I wanted to. And maybe that's a process a lot of people go through. I don't know. I mean, it probably is, at least to some extent, but I think there's something there to the fact that I could not put my own feelings on paper because I didn't know what they were. Yeah. So that was just a sad frustration in my life that filled me with shame. Okay. And that reminds me of another thing that happened during this time. I mean, going back to this time during that college experience at this non-accredited Bible school. Um, yeah, so the second year, um, I wasn't just the cool guy. There was another young woman who came. Yeah, and then some people in the horse camp came, so it was kind of more people around. It was more fun. And this young woman, Sarah, became my friend and introduced me to Myers-Briggs, and that was a huge thing. Um, so yeah, she was telling me about the personality, blah, blah, blah. You're probably similar to me. And I was like, whoa, what is this? So I took the test, and that was back when it was, I mean, later I bought the books, and it was like 140 questions, and you do it pencil and paper, and then you like look at the answer key. But I think she must have had a printout or something she gave me. Anyway, I found out I was an INFJ, and I read the description, and it was like, wow, that's why everything. That's why I am the way I am. That's why I don't feel like I fit in. That's why everything. Like I put too much into it, but I mean it did explain everything up to that point. So I became a Myers-Briggs junkie, and back then, yeah. Anyway, that back then there wasn't much fix for the junkiness. Just I bought two different books. Please Understand Me, and then the other one, which has had slightly different descriptions of the types and blah blah blah. And it didn't even talk about cognitive functions. That wasn't a thing. It was just the letters, So I didn't. Anyway, it's been a patch in my life. Later, I learned about the cognitive functions. That was really helpful. But anyway, it was a eye-opening thing as to why I always felt so different, sensitive, weird, defective, because I did used to feel really defective. Um, creative, all all those things. I guess also like the things that seem so flattering, the ESP, like more in tune with paranormal things, that sort of stuff really resonated with me too. Even though I'm not even that uh, in tune with that sort of thing, really. So anyway, that was a big thing, and I was so grateful to her to getting me introduced to that. She was an ENFJ. I think she was a little confused at what type she was at the time, but I think we figured that out. At least figured out she was an ENFJ. What else? Okay, so the 2 years there, eventually ended. Right, so the summer in between those 2 years, I worked at that camp, which was really fun. That was, wow, funny. That was a year my parents, or at least my dad, wanted to go to France. We did a home exchange where we swapped houses for, I think, 3 weeks. Um, and he really wanted us to go, or at least he was guilty and shaming us into going, like, it's a good opportunity, blah, blah, blah. My brother and I were very on the fence. And I didn't even have to go because I was working at this camp. Like, I had a place to stay. Like, he would have had to, like, go somewhere else, because they're living in our house. So anyway, everybody was convinced to go. And here's the thing about my dad, like, just so detached from, like, reality. So anyway, he got mad at us once altogether, like, oh, you're not talking to the French people, like, he and my parents and I took, like, a really low level conversational French class, which we didn't learn much in. But, like, my brother and sister didn't take anything, so it's like, it's not like we knew French really. But he's like, get out of the car. And this was like at night. The gas lamp was lit, like, nobody was around. He's like, he kicked us out of the car and said, go talk to some French people. And so we all just standing there, like, is he gonna come back for us? Like, I mean, even my mom's like, she was mad, she's annoyed, but, like, just waiting for him to cool off and come back for us. And we're like, nobody's here. And then he got mad at us a different time, and said, okay, everybody go eat your own restaurant and talk to some French people. And I was 19, my sister was 14. So too young to go by herself. So I said, just come with me. And so we went somewhere and had dinner. But, like, it was, I mean, I think we're crying. Like, it's just a shocking, mean thing to do to your family. Like, especially in a mean, authoritative, condescending way. Like, go talk to some French people. And it's just, like, humiliating and weird and wrong, because I'm like, she's too young to go off by herself somewhere. Anyway, so that was the weird things that happened. I mean, it's kind of fun in some ways. But I mean, it's my dad. It's always like what he wanted to do, which was go to the beach, go here. That if there was a dispute about where we wanted to go, it was like he usually got his way. We wouldn't put up much of a fight. A little bit, maybe, like, hey, can we please go here? I really, really want to see. Oh, we don't want to do that. I don't know. Probably would have been wiser just to stay at the camp. But so that happened, and right. So then I graduated, and I transferred to this Hillsdale College. It's just kind of a well-known with homeschoolers, conservative school in Michigan. And my cousin happened to be going there. My cousin, my 5 week older than me cousin, who we were, well, I mean, I don't, pretty close friends, but complicated. People would always think we were twins. We went to camp together for 3 years, and we were always asked if we were twins because we were similar height and similar build and similar look, even though we don't look that much alike, but we do look like cousins for sure. Maybe even sisters, maybe even twins. So it's just like, when I think back to how I was, just so out of place. It just breaks my heart. But she didn't like the fact that I followed her there, and so she wasn't she wasn't nice to me when I first arrived. So that was an extra hurt to to the kind of feeling out of place that I already felt. Um, so she was avoiding me and just trying to remember how it happened, like just ignoring me, pretending like she couldn't hear me. I don't know, but I guess it didn't take that much to keep me away. Any kind of meanness or rejection, I respond to pretty easily. Um, anyway, I don't like talking about this time in my life. So anyway, it was a good experience, learning how to socialize more, make more friends. It was kind of hard to, I mean, very hard actually to adjust to college life of writing papers and knowing how to do homework. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't exactly know how, but like just knowing how to study and write papers, like two things I'd never really learned. Um, and just the lecture style, especially a lot of professors who kind of ramble on and on. I felt pretty unprepared because I think high school really, with tests and quizzes and feedback and essay writing, like you learn how to do these things, but I didn't learn any of these things. My mom never gave us quizzes or anything. I begged for them, and she wouldn't. Um, I would just be reading textbooks and trying to answer questions on my own, but I wouldn't persist in the questions that much anyway, because I didn't know how to answer them oftentimes. I'm talking about like history questions and science. Ugh, that was rough. I mean, math, obviously, always tried to do it. I always had these grammar books because I thought it was important to me. I tried to do it to the best of my ability. And the literature books I really liked. I learned quite a bit from those. But, it's not kind of ever taught. And that would have helped. It would have helped a lot. It was limited to whatever was easy for me without feedback. Yeah. Man, I did not know I'd get into all this stuff. So anyway, the thing that was so telling and embarrassing was that I fell in love with my professor, like really, really big time, like truly, truly fell in love with. And, like I since know limerence, when you don't actually have a relationship with someone and you fall in love with them, it's often limerence. Um, just, just like realizing how, it's been a while since I've read a limerence book, just how unloved I felt and how much shame, like my whole identity, not knowing it was shame, but just this, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I think, I don't know what I feel, I'm just doing things not to get yelled at. um, yeah, when you're just doing things not to be punished all the time, or offend people or be mean or be assertive or take the attention away from anyone else, this is how you live, is just being silent and unseen and unknown and unheard, because that is how I grew up. And obviously there was a reason this person would stare at me, and he was pretty young, early mid 30s actually. At the time, I just about to turn 21 when I transferred there. I think there was something going on, infatuation on his side too or whatever, but and he was the cool professor that everybody loved and talked to and learned a lot from. And even though he'd go off topic, we learned a lot from, not necessarily the subject matter always, but other stuff. It was just like this combination of, wow, I can learn from this person. Like that was something that was so missing, was how did I used to phrase this? Knowledge. Yeah, just okay, feeling, well, I didn't get a real education. I didn't have feedback. I didn't know where I stood. I didn't feel like I could learn a lot of things. A lot of things I just didn't know, like his public events and things like that. Um, yeah, to feel that world of knowledge opening up and somebody you could ask. I mean, when he was free, which there was always people asking him questions. It was that was part of the limerence, but also this a person who was nice and educational. Yeah, so I fell really hard, and so basically I was on cloud nine for the first couple years because I was just happy and I just felt this. Well, what I've read about limerence since is it happens to people who have a lot of shame. So since I didn't know that, it's just this wow, I feel good. Like I feel happy. I don't know. I was listening to Enya, that do 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 do. I don't remember the words. You know, these peppy songs. There's certain songs that would totally capture my mood of just being happy and feeling loved, feeling like someone loved you, liked you, saw you. You know, which I do. I don't think I made that up. I think it was there. Probably limerence on his side too. But anyway, so that was a huge part of my life for that point in time, and then it ended. When I graduated, and I thought there was something there, and I let my feelings be known, and he didn't say anything. He was actually very affected by it. Um, he said, "Well, I could lose my job," so we left it at that. But then when I graduated, I really thought like we would have a thing together. So I was just trying to like see him to like talk, have a talk, or like see if he would say anything. And he was avoiding me, and it was just so painful. But like just, I had spent those couple years. I mean, I guess the 3 years, because it took me 3 years to finish everything since I transferred there, and I also got a teaching certificate. So that added like a little while. I put my heart and soul into this. It really broke my heart when it just was nothing, and I didn't really get closure. Um, and I don't want to get too deeply into that. Um, so I didn't have a closure conversation. Eventually, like I called him up this one time. He answered, and we chatted for like a little while, and then my phone was like on low battery and it died. And I said, "Oh, my phone's gonna die," and he kind of sneered, chuckled, and then my phone died. That was the end. And I was like, okay, I guess that was fitting. And I just like was asking, I just want some closure. I remember saying that, and like I just felt like you liked me. I wanted some closure, and he didn't admit to anything, and yeah, he was a bit sarcastic. Anyway, so I guess that was my closure release, and that was like I don't know, maybe a year after I had graduated. It's hard to remember, and it's a painful period of my life. Don't really like thinking about. But if you can imagine when I left this college and miraculously got a job somewhere, and I guess I'll get into that in the next video. I felt my heart just break into a million pieces. Yeah. And I don't remember what it's like to feel like you have a heart per se, so I don't know where my heart is now, but it was devastating. All right, I'll leave it there.